Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
And I'm Sean.
And we watched a movie.
Of course we did.
Of course we did. So it is the new one on Netflix. It's called Rebecca. And you should probably check it out.
It's alright.
Oh, it's alright, said Sean.
Pretty good.
Oh boy, it's alright. So Rebecca, you've probably seen other movie versions. It is a book by Daphne du Maurier, adapted several times, and this time by the fabulous Ben Wheatley. But I must say, it felt like an outlier for him. It felt like a strange choice for Ben Wheatley, but I guess if Netflix comes calling, you're open to options.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I think it might have fit him better if he had been more Ben Wheatley-ish.
Yes, that's right. So the general story is a young girl working as a lady's companion, played by Lily James, is in Europe with her mistress, and she sort of makes friends with a mysterious widower, Maximus de Winter, played by Armie Hammer. So everybody's sort of gossiping about him because his wife died last year and he's just been tortured with grief, and he has this big, beautiful home, Manderley, back in England, and now it is without a mistress. And he just seems grief-stricken and all the more mysterious and alluring because of it. Anyways, the two of them strike up a friendship. Of course, when the mistress gets wind of this relationship, she is going to rip them away to New York to separate the two would-be lovers. And Maximus proposes. So that is a very quick courtship.
It was.
Possibly not even really a courtship. It was a friendship until they had to say goodbye, and then suddenly it was marriage. So for a guy that the only thing we really knew about him was how much he was missing his dear dead wife, Rebecca. It seems like a sudden and a bold move. But they have a lovely little honeymoon, and then he takes her back home to Manderley. So she meets the head housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, who is played by Kristin Scott Thomas in the movie very well. This big, beautiful house, her handsome new husband, everything seems to be going in her favor. It's a little weird because she's not used to such opulence. A couple of days ago, she was still staff who couldn't eat in the hotel restaurant without a paying guest with her. And now here she is, a high society lady thrown into high society. It's a lot.
It would be a lot. That's a big adjustment.
Yes.
To go from the downstairs to the upstairs.
That's right. And certainly Mrs. Danvers is not going to let her forget about that.
Oh, of course not. She's a big Rebecca fan.
She is a big Rebecca fan. And I wouldn't even say that, our young protagonist, played by Lily James, is a new snob or anything. She just isn't used to what she's supposed to be doing.
She has a role to play.
Yes.
They all do.
They all do. So you may realize that the book is named after the dead wife, Rebecca, and the book never names the new wife, who is our protagonist. She is the person we follow, and yet we never even get to know her name. So that tells you how important Rebecca is, really, to everything that's about to happen. So we'll just call her Lily James. You'll know it's actually the character. But Lily James is going to be haunted. This is a ghost story of sorts. And she's going to be haunted by two specters. So first, there's this enormous house, which feels foreboding. It's definitely isolating. It feels like it's not her friend. There's certainly a lot of stuff in it that feels secretive and
lots of rooms
even
you're
a
not
little
supposed to go in.
Sinister. Yeah, it's like the Beast's castle. And then there's the specter of this dead wife, Rebecca, who her husband is so still grief-stricken about. He won't talk about her. He hates any mention or reference to her. He loses his temper. So it's walking on eggshells around him about Rebecca. But Mrs. Danvers loves Rebecca. Apparently was even her nanny as a young girl and has just stayed with her all of this time and is still with the house despite Rebecca being gone. And apparently pretty committed to making Lily James's life hell because she's not Rebecca. And even though Rebecca's gone, everything that Rebecca said or did or preferred, those are all the right things. And everything that Lily James liked is the wrong thing. And so Rebecca, through Mrs. Danvers, really feels like a heavy presence in this house. But because the husband doesn't want to talk about Rebecca, and Mrs. Danvers only talks about Rebecca, between the two, she's going crazy. She's being gaslit for sure. She's being really repressed into a role she doesn't understand and nobody will define, and yet she is very heavily punished for straying from it. So it is a very precarious position for her. How did you like the movie, Sean?
It was solid, but it wasn't spectacular.
Okay.
I feel like the ghost story elements of it were probably the least compelling. It wasn't... You could tell that that was a key part of the story, but yeah, Ben Wheatley, that's his thing. And it didn't really happen in this movie. That's
the thing. This is really about sort of psychological torture at the end of the day. This new bride feels like she is going crazy with all the stuff that's happening in the house and the whispers and the machinations. And she's never allowed to know about it. She's totally rebuffed if she asks, and yet she is constantly being barraged with all of these rules that nobody will tell her what they are. It's crazy. And so she's just so unhappy. She started off so happy, and then she goes so unhappy very quickly. So it is really that sort of psychological element of, well, dealing with these gender norms, first of all, which is an interesting, I think, concept for this movie and the material. We never really know from Daphne du Maurier which side of the line she's on. She's pretty canny about it. Of course, we sympathize very much with the new bride, the new Mrs. de Winter. But the material anyways, is not entirely unsympathetic to Maximus de Winter. Which is strange. I think there's definitely a way to read this material where he is the villain, and I think the movie doesn't really want to catch on that too much, and I think that's too bad, because there is the possibility to have a lot of villains and a lot more torture, and it really doesn't go there. And from Ben Wheatley, I expected us to really...
To get dark.
Yes, to get super dark, to put the knife in and twist it around. And that's the fun of a Ben Wheatley movie. You know, they are over the top, they are too much, and he's so good at that. So I was a little disappointed to find him watered down here. So I don't know if that's the Netflix influence or if he felt the need to hold back for a much broader audience than his films would normally
his films
get.
are super small and niche.
Yes, they are. Even though he attracts top talent to work with him because they are excellent films and great studies of the psychological mind, but he is a dark guy. He likes the twisty-turny insides of the mind stuff and making people fall off their mental comfort zones.
Yeah.
Both his characters and his audience.
And the audience, absolutely.
Yeah. So I hoped for that, and we didn't quite get it. We did get an elevated, well, of course, he probably had more money, more budget for this, but he is throwing production values at us like crazy.
He is. The movie looks great.
The house looks great. We definitely get a different sense from different rooms. Like, Rebecca's rooms felt so cold to me. I was very surprised. They're very different from the rest of the house. But it's really outside of the house, too, that the environment really comes alive. In the beginning of the movie, when they're, falling in love or whatever it is, my goodness, it's beautiful sunlight and blue skies and blue waters and just gorgeous postcardy stuff. And then,
yeah, it helps that they're in Monaco
Yeah.
and then go back to dreary old England.
oh boy, yes. But it is dark and it's dreary and it's foreboding and the water is choppy and it's windy and my goodness, it is a stark difference. That matches where they are romantically and personally. So yeah, I was a little disappointed that it doesn't go totally off the rails. I wanted it off the rails, like, let's be honest. But I still think it's a good movie. It's an interesting adaptation. It's not adding a whole lot new, though, to what we've seen before. But it's well acted, obviously very competently directed. It's just when you tell me Ben Wheatley, then I'm thinking Ben Wheatley. The
Crazy.
Ben Wheatley I know and love.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a very subdued gentleman in this.
Kind of like Maximus.
Oh boy. But even Maximus has quite a dark side.
He does.
He does. And Ben Wheatley wasn't unleashing very much in this.
I do know.
Anyways, still a cool movie. It's still a beautiful movie. Gosh, that Lily James, she's so lovely.
Yes.
Silence from Sean, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
It's so good having the two of us here.
Yeah, having a
Contributing
conversation.
equally. Yeah. Well, I think people should watch it. What do you think?
I think it's worth a watch.
It's worth a watch.
Don't have high hopes.
Oh boy. It's
Well,
not so bad as that, I don't think.
It's not a bad movie.
No.
But it's not a great movie.
Okay.
It's just a decent movie.
It's a decent movie. And a new one. A brand new one on Netflix. So check it out
that's
if you're
something.
looking for something. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.